commercial side. We have Washington County School District has acquired land for a CTE high school right off River Road in Southern. So that was one of our first areas. Go to the next slide. So Washington County School District has that parcel there. Intermountain Healthcare has already acquired their parcel right around the roundabout. If you've been in Desert Color, the roundabout is where we cross the bridge to get in the neighborhood. So they're there as well. Obviously, Paparazzi, the giant building on the side of the hill. That was our first tenant that's on site. And then the one I think most people have the buzz about is Big Shots Golf, right? So very similar to a Topgolf type facility. Already has their property. They're in a design phase. Their aspiration is to be up by next summer, open. Okay, so that's what they are working through with the city and our design review committee currently, to just get that started here end of summer, beginning of fall. Okay, so that's on the at least the institutional and commercial side. I want to give you a snapshot there. We did just release our first phase of commercial. So on the commercial real estate side, office space, entertainment, and dining is our first phase. There's about 20,000 square feet of office space that'll be there. We have the interest from the movie theater and restaurants as well. And so that's what'll be coming first. And that's all 180 acres of commercial is this segment when you first get off Desert Color Parkway from Southern. Yes?
If you're doing commercial and somebody wants to be there, are you already building, are you gonna build a suit or how?
We have both. Again, it's 180 acres, and so we're working with Peg and Woodbury on the commercial side. And I have a contact if you're interested in finding out about if it's built suite, if it's leased, if you want to own your own. There's just different parcels that they've segmented that are going to be some that are just leased, some that they'll sell off. It really just depends on what your purpose is.
So just so everybody online, Bill's question was whether the commercial was going to be built to suit or already completed commercial that you'd have to go in and finish, but it's a little bit of both, right?
Yeah, we will have
both. Just want to make sure everybody can hear online too.
Okay.
Any other questions? I have a quick question. I heard that Dixie State is considering purchasing land, or if that's not been released, I don't know.
So
I like the rumor mill.
Yeah.
The rumor mill is my thing, man. That's all I do.
If you dig deep enough through public record, you can find it. So Dixie State, pre-COVID, had acquired.
Ooh, that's a good caveat.
Okay.
I'm going to go into that in a minute.
So they, pre-COVID, had acquired a parcel of land that's bigger than their current parcel downtown. So an extension campus, yes. Now, obviously, with the situation and climate we're in, that funding had already been approved through government appropriations. So it's a huge deal that they're looking for that extension campus right around on the south corridor here next to Southern Parkway. Obviously, over the past 3 months, things have changed. Funding has been drawn back, but Dixie State is still anxious to move forward on that parcel. So that's why you haven't seen a press release. That's really Dixie State's news, but I'll share that with you only because, again, in public record, you can see the amount that was allocated for it land-wise and how it was crossed off the budget, just like most everything else over the past 3
Yeah, and that's important too, is that they pretty much stopped funding for everything at the city and state level, just as like a pushing pause.
Yes.
We had Cody Adent, I think that's how you say it, Cody Adent with Utah Tourism on the Friday call 2 Fridays ago. I think it's 2 Fridays ago, and he was talking a little bit about that, about how funding, you know, there was a pause button on pretty much everything, and he talked a little bit to me just one-on-one about the convention center and the rebranding of the convention center, and you probably all followed the fallout of them rebranding it to Greater Zion Convention Center, and it's back to Dixie Convention Center. So there's a lot of elements working in play. So I'm curious as to seeing how some of this stuff, like what follows through and what doesn't, just over the next 6 months.
And just like all of these are done.
Okay.
Right, so these are absolutely like land's purchased, everything's good.
Okay.
How big is the Intermountain?
10 acres.
What's it gonna be like, an Instacart, or is it?
Well, so part of our mix is we do have age restricted here, and with the age restricted community across the side, clinics, offices, right? I mean, I don't know, I can't speak for them as far as what their actual plan is, but with 10 acres, we see it being something where they can facilitate the clinics and offices for that type of demographic.
Intermountain Healthcare is also notorious for being the first one in to make the decision whether, because they don't want another medical facility to come in. So they can sit on the land for potentially as long as they want, just so they get kind of first dibs of the property. That's at least my experience.
Perfect.
Okay, keep going.
Next slide. So one of the things that if you've heard about Desert Color, one of the big things on our front is we are a heavy amenity community, right? To draw people out from St. George to go to this bar place on the southern part of town, we are our amenity infrastructure. Our master plan is based on never-before-seen amenities. You may ask, well, what's a never-before-seen amenity? These recreational lagoons are all the rage. You go to Texas, they have multiple that are coming online or are online. And then Florida is one that I'll show you the picture that our contractor just moved in on after he built the Hard Rock Cafe. So if you watched the Super Bowl, you saw that the Hard Rock, the Seminole Hard Rock, I think is what it's called, just finished their lagoon there. Lagoon is tricky. I think when I hear lagoon, I think of green water, paddle boats, not anything I really want to swim in. This recreational lagoon is blue water, white sand, right? It's 2.5 acres. And it's important to throw out there, I know we're short on time, but we have all the water shares below. So we have a well that sits below the land desert color. So we actually are bringing our own water up that is brackish, it's not drinkable, not potable. And so we are treating that water to make it swimmable. So it's not like we're pulling culinary water in. That was a big deal for us, to make sure that people understood our water stories, that we're not just taking from you.
Did you buy those water rights? Or
So,
did you
yeah, we
give them
did.
appropriate visit?
Yeah, no, we did. We acquired them.
Did you say brackish?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very heavy in salt, yeah. So they actually normally have to pump it back into Virgin anyway. So like that aquifer that's there, they pump right back out into the Virgin anyway.
And so we treat it, it'll actually be a saltwater feature, so it'll be a saltwater swimming pool. And that's, if you've been on site, you've seen all the concrete walls are poured, all the piping underneath is there. This is slated by February of next year to be active. So Parade of Homes is where we look to introduce this to the area. So that's the never-before-seen amenity. We do have, I don't like to call it a clubhouse, but we have a resort center. So the Shores Resort is our clubhouse, but it is highly resort feel. It's cabanas, it's rooftop loggia, it's restaurant and bar space, and then it's a 3,400 acre swimming pool that's heated, right? So that's your year-round accessibility. You're not gonna get the lagoon, or you may get the lagoon in the winter, but it's very chilly. Whereas this will give people during the winter months an opportunity to enjoy a heated water feature. Again, there's the rooftop loggia cabanas, there's different spaces for the food and beverage side of things, which will come later as obviously the community continues to build. But that's where we feel is a little bit different between our commercial side that's there, between the food and beverage that's there. We really want people to come to Desert Color and stay. They don't have to go 5, 6, 10 minutes away to find different aspects of living.
Now, is this gonna be resident?
Great question. So
Well,
yes,
sorry, Dave, Dave, do you wanna hit yours first, man? Sorry, I cut you off.
Yeah, just real quick, I've heard mixed reports as to if this is public accessible or just people that are homeowners out there.
We're on the same wavelength, Dave, you and me, man, I like it.
Great question. So this is private. So for HOA members, and we have a nightly rental approved area. So if you are staying in one of the properties that are in the rental pool, you'll have access to the amenities. So it is private. Now, in our master plan, there's been 4 lagoons depicted. So we've talked with the city of potentially making a paper play or something that's open to public in future development. But for first phase, from our resort center and our lagoons, it is only for HOA members and nightly rental guests.
You want me to go next? Sorry, I just skipped, sorry.
Oh, that's perfect. You're right in the queue. Just a couple of delineations. I just mentioned we have a nightly rental approved neighborhood, which has 5 builders currently. The caveat here is Coal West is sold out. They've been open since the parade. The interest is super high. That resort area with the beach, you gotta go 6.5 hours to get it if you want it, other than at the lagoon. And we've seen that with the interest with builders that just signed 2 weeks ago. They have 1 lot left, right? The interest is super high. And you'll see everything from a condo style product. Coal West has a 16-plex that's currently under construction that starts low 3s for a condo. They'll do a townhouse product, which was their parade home. So if you've been down in Desert Color and you went through the parade home at Coal West, that's their townhome style. That one's gonna be the 4s to 5s, 4 to 500s. And then you'll get up to their beachfront, and just about everything on the beach that we've seen come through the design is $1 million plus. And that's gonna be everything from about 3,500 square feet to 4,500 square feet. Usually 3 stories with rooftop living, very California-esque when it comes to your beach properties. And again, they're nightly rental approved. People can buy them as personal or private residences, but there is a rental pool that they can, as an investor, go in and put it in that pool. So that's on the shores of Desert Color. Auburn Hills,
Really quick on that, is there gonna be a maximum percentage of units that can be rented out, or is it,
in this space, it's 100%. It is zoned for that. And that's the differentiator. Auburn Hills, you cannot. There's zero, right? There's no nightly rental in Auburn Hills. And it's kind of nice the way our master plan is set up, is there's delineations, right? So it's not like a street here, a street there. It's literally a portion of the community is zoned for the nightly rentals. And this is immediately around the lagoon. Everything on Auburn Hills is across the street and up, or I guess say, south of that Lagoon Parkway. And so Auburn Hills, with our traditional residences, would have townhouses. So Homes is furthest along, right? They're the one that's been building the longest. Currently have 20 residents that are there. Carefree Homes is one that just moved in from El Paso, right? Doing a great job. They've come into St. George. They're kind of all over St. George. They have an alley load product, which I think is a little bit new for St. George, but it's in other master plans has been very well received. If you go to Daybreak and other master plans, alley load product is actually getting very popular for the buyer.
What that means, the setbacks are just where there's single-family units, but there's walking spaces, and then the alley access to the garage is basically, you're not having like a through street, it's an alley to access the garages, right?
Correct, yeah. So AJ Construction, obviously St. Georgians understand AJ Construction does a great job, built a higher quality product. His Parade was out there last year, and on the ridge, so there's a great ridge lot that's there. All of his lots kind of sit on the ridge view lot, on the higher end. Sullivan just came out with their model, just opened last week. Not even furnished yet. I think they only have 3 lots left, which is unheard of.
I think somebody's got a contract on the model too.
Yes, yes. I mean, everything is, they've never seen that. Obviously, Sullivan is a big name here in St. George, and for them to just get a model open and only have 3 of their lots remaining, it kind of shows the traffic and the interest in that area. So again, that's the delineation between Auburn Hills, Desert Color, obviously 10 builders that are currently there. To date, through June, we had 70 sales, and that's with the pandemic. So we will easily hit 150 this year, in really the first 12 to 18 months of construction.
And so you guys know Visionary Homes, Zach Neiman is gonna be the realtor project manager for Visionary Homes for now, and he's actually based out of Keller Williams. So he's moving his family down here from Salt Lake. He should probably be here within the next 30 to 60 days. They have another subdivision that they're working on as well as Desert Color. So hopefully when Zach gets here, I'll have him introduce you to everybody, and then he'll have some information on Visionary's set up in Desert Color as well.
For sure. And their Warner Valley is their other product, right? So
Yeah, in Warner Valley, yep.
But I apologize.
No, that's okay.
And they're townhomes.
And they're fairly new to the development anyway, right?
Yeah, and so the whole master plan vision for those 10,000 homes was to hit every major market segment. Again, this is when St. George discussed this plan and why our plan was accepted, is they wanted to make sure, one, there's affordable housing, but also that there are amenities that are going to help people drop away from downtown. So maybe traffic will flow south now. If there's commercial, there's dining, there's entertainment, there's workspaces. And that's what we've tried to do. Again, if Homes and Visionary are starting in the mid-2s, 250 to 260, okay, for, I think their townhouse is 1,400, their townhouse is 2,100 for 260, okay? It's pretty crazy pricing. All the way up to, on the high end right now in Auburn Hills, obviously AJ Construction, his Parade House, I think is right at 800,000, or just under 800,000. Whereas once you get to the nightly rental pool, you'll go from the mid or low 3s on condo product up to $1.5 million to $2 million for Split Rock and Cedar Point. So you can see just the gaps that we are covering, and with how much space we have, the whole design of the project was to make sure we can offer all those different segments.
Cool. Any questions? Nope.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Dale?
Just one question, I think, I speak for everyone here. Is there gonna be a Trader Joe's?
Ooh, I love a Trader Joe's. Megan Woodbury has been tasked with bringing the quality.
I mean, if this doesn't pull it in,
I know.
might as well set this place on fire.
Right.
Dale's like, I'm sick of going to Vegas for Trader Joe's.
Yeah.
Yeah, you and a lot of other people.
Kim?
how does the HOA compare for the nightly rental versus, or did I jump ahead?
No, you're good. I brought a cheat sheet, just because with the different neighborhoods, there are different pricing for HOA. One of the things that, again, our investor group decided to do was throw amenities up front, which is kind of rare for a big development like this. When you're talking $10 to $15 million, that's a big deal. And so with that in mind, they've approached this HOA perspective and making sure that it is fair and reasonable. And I'll just give you examples. So single-family detached in a traditional in Auburn Hills is $82 a month. Okay, so then in the resort area, that other, the shores, it's $94. Okay, so those rates, I think it's very hard to say it's unfair at that point with the amenity package that's offered.
The townhomes, I think it bumps to 120 because they have, exterior maintenance and some other things already included into it.
For sure. And I have that whole cheat sheet, but that breaks that down. But yeah, so the HOA front, it's very reasonable.
Since with the pandemic and most of us are now working from home, what is internet going to be like then?
Great question. So we are actually working with multiple internet providers to provide the best service up to date that we have. So 1 gig, 2 gig is what we're looking at. We are in talks.
Fiber optic?
Yeah, oh yeah, it's brand new, so everything's fiber, correct. And that's a big deal. Coming from Phoenix, people said the internet was bad, I never understood. Phoenix, it was just, you counted on it. I got here, and we were in an apartment until the house was completed, and it drove me nuts, because yeah, the internet was bad. But yeah, so everything brand new, fiber down there is what's going on. It's all been in the groundwork's there. Again, we're finalizing the details to get a bulk rate, that we will release, that'll be tied to HOA dues, but those rates will be lower than anything, that the market sees. So I can't give you the exact dollar amount or the provider yet, but ask me about 2-3 weeks and we should have that dialed in.
So that's gonna be included in the HOA?
It will for that bulk pricing. Yep. Okay, great question though.
Same way Daybreak is.
Yes, yep. Master plans are turning towards that to try to get the rates where they want it. Yeah.
Did you say if there were long-term rental restrictions?
There are, whether it's capped at a percentage of units, so kind of back to what you're saying on the short term, so the number of units that can be long-term, or there's also a investor kind of cap, if you will, as to you have to live in a unit for X amount of months before you can rent it out. Again, we're trying to create a setting where families come, right? Like, yes, the Shores is different. Like, don't get me wrong, the Shores is its own beast. It's nightly rentals. That's its own thing. But Auburn Hills, we are trying to make sure we can track families. And so by setting some guidelines or standards is the way we're going to try to make that happen. So, questions?
You get to this, you know.
Awesome. So I mentioned Sullivan Home model on site. It'll be furnished, I think, the next week or two. They'll have a second unit that'll be complete at the end of this month as a model. Visionary Homes will be starting their model here in the next 30 to 60 days and actively selling come fall. The Resort Amenity Center opens in October. So you heard me say the lagoon is February. The Resort Center with that pool and the facility around it is October. Okay, so fall is when we'll be releasing that. You'll see some grand opening announcements coming on it, but that'll be exciting to get that open. And then last, I just mentioned as far as the number of models that we have, 9 that are currently open. We still get a lot of calls, people asking, are there models yet? Just, you gotta go out there. Okay, there's 9 models you can go through, every different product segment hit. If you have customers that are really in the market, that's a place that obviously we're biased, but you gotta take them down, because there's something for everyone there. Okay, and the next, I just want to show, if we can hit this link, our engineers put this together, and I think it helps highlight what the look and feel will be. So we've taken actual plans from those builders on the lagoon and put them in. So that's actual plans, obviously those are just placeholders, but you get a little idea of size and scope of the lagoon. So
Ooh,
there's the resort center, with the pool, the grand entrance there. Again, rooftop loggia, hanging out Sunday. Where's this at? Happy beverages. Where's this at? Southern in the 15, Southern Parkway. Okay.
Right across the Sun River.
Yeah, yep.
Where's the wave pool?
No wave pool yet.
Yet.
Yeah. No, I mean, again, we keep our options open for the amenities. We really want to see on this first one how the members, HOA members, and the nightly rentals associate with it, right? We think it's going to be a huge hit, and everything across, this isn't just a nationwide thing. You're seeing these in South America, over in Europe as well. The popularity is gaining a lot of steam. We're getting lots of calls of people asking specific about who's building this and yada, yada, yada. But yeah, so we'll keep ourselves open for future amenities, but right now this should suffice. Think bathing load on this is like 2,000 people.
There's a place,
they did a wave pool, they built a huge hotel, they did a wave pool, and it was crazy how fast they built the project, just with the little pool, and the wave rolling in with me.
Yeah, well, and I think, again, our absorption coming out of this pandemic is starting to show that. Again, everything in the Shores Resort is crazy hot right now. People are beating down the door, hey, who's got a resort lot? I'm like, you can try these too, I know everyone else is out, right? So it is, we're seeing that, and as a developer, you want to see that, but you don't know, right?
Yep.
Because that's not seen in Utah, that's not seen really west of Texas, you don't have any of these yet. And so that's why we're very curious to see how people engage with it, what the buyer thinks, as far as, is this the attraction that we feel it's going to be? Indications so far are yes, it's good. And the fact that we're on pace for 150 in year one, it's a pretty good deal. So, other than that, any questions? I know I took too much time.
No, it's all right. This is good. Just so you know, we're gonna have Mitch, who's the general manager of the project, and Ryan on our call this Friday at 9, where we're gonna talk a little bit more about master plan communities and what that means for St. George and what's attractive about St. George for those master plan communities, and kind of what we can kind of forecast out to look at why these big companies want to plant where they're at in St. George. So we'll talk a little bit about that on Friday, right?
Yeah. And I'll throw it out last thing. If anyone wants a tour, I'm gonna leave business cards, and I'd love to get you on site to at least show you progress and the different sites of interest. Again, if you have customers or clients or potential buyers, you wanna make sure you have the most accurate, up-to-date information. And so, being the Desert Color rep, by all means, just reach out. We can set up a time. If it's a group of you that want to go out, we can jump in a golf cart and we can show you the different areas. I think that's the most valuable for you to really get a feel for what Desert Color is going and standing on that rooftop loggia and looking at the whole package.
Yeah, I'm gonna set up some group tours that we can go on, and that way I'll just kind of schedule some stuff out and then fill them up and let you guys jump in where they can. And obviously, if you guys want to go solo, then you can contact Ryan and he'd do it. Thanks, man.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Are most builders, are you seeing, are they like 8 to 12 months out on their build out?
No, so the one that's slowest right now, and I won't say slowest, but Sullivan Homes is about 180 days on their build out. We do have Carefrees on the shorter end. I think they're 45 to 60. They can pump through. Homes is probably 60. Obviously, when you start talking like the customs down at the lagoon,
Right.
that's definitely longer. But some of them have to be done by February. So that's easier.
Yeah, you're not allowed to not have that. And then last thing, Sean Russin, he's the one that provided lunch today. First Colony Mortgage. You want to come up here and do a little pitch, man? You want to do a little pitch?
Yeah,
Just
sure.
let everybody know who you are. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, go see you. Yeah, man, we'll see you. I'll talk to you on Friday.
Yeah, thanks, Brian, appreciate it. So I'm here sponsoring lunch. First Colony is the preferred lender for all of Desert Color. So each builder kind of has their own incentives to use First Colony. The big one right now is Carefree. So if you bring a buyer over to Carefree and they use First Colony, it's a $5,500 lender credit at close, which is crazy. And we're buying a 1% rate down for the buyer's rate too. So, but yeah, if you go out there, you'll see First Colony branded, but any questions or anything for that development, let us know, and we help you out.
Do you have some cards and stuff over there?
Yeah, there's some cards, there's some free appraisal coupons too. Yeah, anything you guys need, just let us know. But you'll
Cool.
see us out there, and it's gonna be really cool.
How are rates doing, man? Isn't that what you normally get? Isn't that the question you normally get?
Yeah, how are rates?
Hey, John, how are rates?
Yeah, rates are amazing. We hit like historic lows. We've been in the historic lows for the past, I don't know, month or so. So a 15-year is going to be mid-3s, 2.5% with no buy down, which is crazy. A 30-year, we priced one out yesterday, was like 3.25. Wow, no buy down. You can buy down under 3 easy. So that makes, because the thing we hear on the lender side a lot is, hey, home prices are high. But kind of our conversation with the buyers, well, hey, prices might be a little bit high, there's still demand, but because the cost of money is low, so the rates are low, the market would need to swing about 15 to 20% to make up that difference. So say rates spiked, that difference in that rate is going to be about a 15 to 20% difference in the market changing. So we're still encouraging buyers, hey, it might be a little bit high, but think about it long term, and the cost to own is super affordable right now. So,
Yeah, for sure. Especially for the next 30 years, right? You buy it, it's like,
yeah,
it's gonna be that way for 30 years. It's not variable.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
yeah, and once the water goes into this lagoon, it's gonna, once people can like see it and feel it, it's gonna create a lot more attention, and there's gonna be a lot of drive. I mean, there already is.
It's,
but-
it's interesting to me how many people that don't know anything about it. So it's pretty interesting. Having you be the smartest person on the block with your buyers and even investors, and saying, hey, these are opportunities, because that's just the first phase of the nightly, weekly rentals, right? It's not like, oh, all the nightly, weekly rentals in all of Desert Color are over with. It's just that first, phase of takedowns are already sold out, right? And so I know Holly's gonna stay up to date with the nightly, weekly rental stuff, and we'll try to keep you guys educated as much as you can. Candace? Okay. Oh, I just want to let him go because I know he's busy. Make sure you reach out to Sean. He doesn't only work this subdivision. He does not only work in Desert Color. He does it everything. So if you need anything, make sure you reach out to Sean. Thanks for coming, man.
Yeah, and this is a note too, so it's a ton, it's like 10,000 doors, right? And so it's not just one loan officer. I think sometimes there's one loan officer on like a builder account, and they just get overwhelmed, and then the quality drops. So we have teams for each builder with loan officers within First Colony that are gonna be helping each builder. So it should be a super smooth process with each builder. So if you have any questions on that, just let us know. But,
Cool.
yeah.
Thanks, brother.
Cool.
I'll see you. Thanks. You want to?
I just wanted to say, I have 2 rentals out in Desert Color that are gonna be brand new, finished September 15th. So if you guys have anyone that is buying out there and needs to rent while they're, I have 2. So that's good to know.
Okay. The rest of the team meeting, I got just market stats. So kind of going along, he was talking about absorption and how fast things are selling. I want to talk about that. Does anybody else have anything you want to talk about? Cover as far as Desert Color goes? Questions? Bueller? No, we're good. Anybody at home?
Hey, Robert, I was just
Or-
going to ask if it's Dixie Power. I don't think we addressed that. I'm sure it is, but I
Yeah,
just want to
it
make
is.
sure.
It is Dixie Power. Yeah, it is. Yep. Okay, so I got a fun, I call them fun stats, because we don't have all of the data out for June, but I was able to dig through a program that I have that we can share some really interesting stats as to what's going on. These things are always in the way. I named it Fun Stats. Who likes stats? I even put it on the title. Who likes the data hole of eternity? I knew Kim did. Bill? I could literally get going on it, and it's like an hour goes by. I'm like, oh crap, I got a bunch of other stuff to do. It's just interesting to me. So if this is boring, please stop me. I only have 8 slides, so it's not too bad.
That's enough, Ron.
That's enough. You guys are done? 8's the max. 8's the max.
No, they can leave if they don't want to see it.
I know. I'm trying to figure out how I play this thing now. Oh, there it is. Present. Hide. Okay. Good for Yeah, I set the bar a little high. I shouldn't have done that. Okay, so this is a scale of the last 2 years. June. It's kind of hard to see, guys. I'm sorry. June 18 all the way to June 2020, and then I highlighted just the last 12 months, right? And so this is median price. Who can tell me why I go with median price rather than average?
The middle.
It just pushes all the extremes out, right? All the low stuff, which there is none. So it's really just kind of pushing out all the high stuff and landing right in the middle. So if we look at the red bars being for sale,
Robert,
yes,
average really isn't more meaningful.
please tell me more,
Well, I mean, median is set, it's just whatever's in the middle.
right?
And what's in the middle is really a product of how many units are sold. You need to know what the average, there's a $1 million house here and a $200,000 house here, and I'm a buyer, I need to know what the average price is gonna be. I mean, it could be very distorted when you use the median. There could have been $50 million houses and $200,000 houses, and the middle one is gonna be really skewed because of that distribution.
Yeah, and I think we could talk about this. I think there's pros and cons to each one when we're talking about the amount of data that we have. I think we could look at both. I'm gonna look at median just as a natural, because if you look at the average sales price in St. George, it's about 108 or 388,000, and the only reason I know that's because of what it was. But the median is 320,000, right? And so when we think of the average being more than the median, then that's actually showing that the bulk majority of sales are actually going to be towards that lower end, not the higher end, right? So you can look at both. I think you can make arguments for both. If I'm going to tell my buyer, and this is my opinion, please tell me if I'm missing something. If a buyer asks me what's the average sale in St. George, and then they want to extrapolate that to their home, it's probably a wrong way of doing it, right? Would you guys disagree? Because if I had a single family home, 3-bed, 2-bath, and I asked what the average sale of all the homes were, that might not tell me anything based on my particular home versus, you know, every other home, right? So when I'm looking at median, I look at this because it's going to just kind of keep out the extreme. If you look at the averages, it's about the same anyway as the percentage goes. So for sale, we're up 9%, 9% of homes actively for sale. So you can kind of see that over the course of last year, we've added inventory for sale as a price point, so that the median price for sale that we've been listing is 9% more over the last year than the previous period. Does that make sense? So this is the price that they're asking for sale. Under contract, the price that's going under contract is up 7%, yet the sold price is only up 6.7%. So if you're looking at the listing inventory is going up faster than what actually the sold inventory of value is going, right? So the perception is that the values are going up 9% from the greater community, yet the reality is that it's only going up at 6 to 7%. Does that make sense? Who can tell me how that's helpful?
Is that on a year?
This is over the course of the last year.
1 year basis?
Yep, this is over as all the data points over the course of the last year, okay? Anybody tell me why that's helpful to understand that?
To educate your client.
Bill?
Well, yeah, to educate your client.
On what?
On what they should be asking for their house. Everybody has this inflated value of what their house is, and in fact, they all think it's gone up 9%, but in fact, it's only gone up 6%. So when you're pricing a house, they better understand that there's a 3% difference, and 3% is $5,000 to $10,000.
Yep.
You know, depending on the house.
Yep.
So yeah, they better understand that if I'm going to list a house, do I want to list it or I want to sell?
Right. Exactly. So it's a good piece of data, exactly, to educate the seller who's like, natural tendency is going to want to list the home for more than what it's actually worth, right? And so you can easily show them, be like, this is actually, the perception that you have isn't wrong. Most of the market feels that way, but the reality of the demand, the reality of the buyer and what they see the value is only at about 6% over the last year. Cool. Well, can't do that.
Robert, along with that, you're going to drop in the asking price versus the selling price percentage. We were up close to 98%.
I think we're still 98. I think we're still right around the 98. I don't think it's changed very much. And it typically, from the data that I pulled, like historically, like even when the market's at its worst, it's still only about 97%. Now at the upper price points, it's interesting to watch the list price to sales price really get a big gap. It's normally like 96% of the ask price. And why do you think that is? Why is the asking price versus the sales price so it's such a big gap at that higher price point? There's not as much demand, and somebody that has $1 million home probably thinks it's worth $2 million, right? They like have a lot of investment in this huge asset, and so they're like, well, I'm going to test it out. And then who do you think the buyer is for $1 million home? Another $1 million buyer that's smart enough to be like, no, I know you feel like it's worth that, but they're going to look at the data from a rational perspective more often, not always, and negotiate probably a little bit harder for that sale. So I think that's interesting. This is actually pretty crazy. So this is over the course of last year. So this is just comparing June of 2019 to June of 2020. Okay, so it's not over the course of the whole time. But our number of listings for sale, this is based off of units, so not volume. The number for sale, we're down 8.8%. And if you look, our number for sale is as low as it's been in 2 years. So the amount of inventory is lower than it's been in 2 years, okay? Our under contracts compared to last year, 42%. We have 42% more homes under contract than we did just the same month a year ago. And and we could kind of guess why, right? Like if you look at March, April, May, you can see the under contract hovering right around this, where we were significantly below average under contract in March and April, right? So it's not that we didn't lose that inventory, we just delayed the demand, right? Like,
Well, Melvin and I were talking about this before the meeting, and I wonder if it is a correlation that with the whole COVID-19, everyone having to stay at home, you know, nationwide, some states are different than others. But now they can all say, hey, I can work from home now.
Mhm.
So why do I want to be in a big metropolitan city? A lot of them are now moving to a smaller
Yep.
area like ours. I think that's why we're seeing a big influx in buyers, because now people know that they can live anywhere they want.
and I'm interested in seeing how that plays over a little bit longer term, because if I'm gonna move across state lines, am I gonna move in 3 months? Like from March to today, I'm like, I made the decision and now I'm going, and now I put a home under contract in 3 months? Probably not, right? If you're gonna move your whole life, pick up your whole life and move it, it's probably gonna take a little bit longer than just 3 months, right? And so there's some opportunities where you're gonna be able to make sense of that, but I'm interested probably at like the 6 month mark of like setting everything up, selling the house you're in, getting everything, you know, settled in. There's some of us that would probably just pick up and roll out today, and then I think the vast majority of personality types are gonna say, I'm gonna do this, I'm probably gonna do a little slower than I might otherwise think, right? Sean?
Yeah, just an insight from what we're seeing on the lending side is, a lot of out-of-state buyers that own a home are just wanting to move.
Yep.
Like, they're just saying, hey, can I qualify with both? Like, we just want to get out.
Yeah.
So we're seeing that.
So I think that's probably a for sure trend, and we're an obvious stop, right? Because we're not in a huge city, but we're not Mesquite, right? Nothing against Mesquite, but we're not Mesquite, right? We still got a Costco here. We're fighting over a Trader Joe's. You heard Dale; he's real frustrated by that. So then sold is up 14%. So same month over month, up 14%. Now, what can we kind of anticipate the numbers under contract or closed sold numbers are going to look like in July? If we watch normally in July, they stay about the same normally, June to July. If they stayed about the same, could you think that the sold numbers are probably going to be up pretty high? So it will be interesting to watch our under contracts in July. Based on what we're seeing in opportunities, and Dave can attest to this, we've seen a huge number of agents putting up contracts into opportunities just in the last 2 days. Like, to the fact where in one day we had 88 opportunities created and that we had to review. And if you were to just put 10 minutes to reviewing each contract, that's 13 hours of work for one person to review all 88 of those opportunities. We normally only have about 20 to 30 a day, and we had 80 in a single day the other day, right? So that is great to see that we're pushing that through. So if we're saying, hey, that was June and we're already into July rolling through it, it's going to be interesting to see what the numbers look like as well. Okay. What was that? Yeah, you guys are feeling it. Okay, this is crazy. This is sales absorption. So this is as a percentage, the number of homes in these two categories based on the total number of homes that are on the market, right? So if you're talking under contract, if you pull it over, 37% of the entire market went under contract in the month of June. So from June 1 to June 30th, right, we had X amount of homes hit the market. We have a total inventory, and 37% of them went under contract in 1 month. That's insane, right? You go all the way back to June 18, the number of under contracts is huge. Now, if we're comparing that over the course of time, our percentage change as a total is up 32% based on the percentage. So at really the bottom under contract, this is right here in October. So we're at 20% of the market. So if you think of the low water mark of under contract, about 20% of the market is getting absorbed on a regular basis. So we're all the way up to 37%, and that's unlike anything else. You can see kind of that extreme. So days on market is going down. I think as a percentage, days on market is down 6% year over year as a total year. So that just means inventory is going faster. So what happens when our absorption is happening at a faster rate. Our days on market are going down. What does that happen to what happens to prices? Goes up, right? So if we're having conversations with buyers, it's obvious the conversation we're having there. If we're trying to get listings, what is the conversation? Things are selling, and they're selling for a better price than they ever have before. And if they want to upgrade, what also correlates to that? Rates are incredibly low. Marcus, a month ago was talking about how there's very rare opportunities in all of the last 100 years where you've had both a great time to sell and a great time to buy at the exact same moment, right? So because those moments are hard to come by, we want to educate our clients to do that. And some of this data is the way we're going to do that, right? Sometimes it's going to gloss right over, and they're going to just need to trust you. But go ahead, Bill.
Robert, do you explain the spike from people sitting on their hands during COVID, or how do you explain the spike?
I would say it's a combination of rates. It's a combination of, because I'm interested in the fact that, like, it doesn't, in March and April, the absorption really didn't go down all that much, right? There's no significant number of it going down ever. So normally when a pendulum swings one way, it swings back the other way over time, but it didn't ever really swing all that much, right? So thinking back March 19, if we look at March and March here, it's not a huge number. Now our under contracts dropped, but our sold were up because of how incredible we did in February, right? So I don't know if that swing is really making sense, and I think it's a combination of both the rates and what's going on in COVID. Remember, majority of our buyers are coming from out of state. It's not like we're organically selling from people that already live here, right? So we're getting the benefit of COVID, in my opinion.
I think there's a big swing right now from Washington and California.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Washington,
Oh yeah.
with Prop 13 going away, California's going to be scaling out.
I don't know if anybody heard Larkin's radio show last week, but he was telling Nick Shivers is a big KW agent up in Portland. They do like 350 sales like on a regular basis. Huge team. He said he had several clients back out of deals specifically because they thought they wanted to move to Portland, moved up there. One particular client of his, $1 million client, they just went out to dinner down the street from the house that they're buying. Their car got vandalized. They got harassed by protesters. They're like, I'm not going to stay here. We're not living here. We pulled out of the deal. So I think there's a certain fallout that's going to happen from that. We're gonna now. This is what I say is a benefit is like values are going to go up, but what is that naturally going to do if we can't build homes? And which is why I'm going to talk to Desert Color about we need to attract national builders, because as much as we want to keep local builders in business, they got to build homes faster, right? We can't have 6 months to build a home when we have this building demand. Prices are going to get out of hand, and when that happens, that's really going to actually affect our economy, because the local residents that live and work here might not be able to afford here, right? And so we're going to get supplanted by, people from other areas.
I think that's more dependent upon the subcontractors, because even I work for Capital Pacific, which is the top 10 home builders. So KB, Lennar, all those guys, if they moved here, they would be seeking to use the contractors in this area.
But if they can't, they're the only ones that can put the bill to bring other subs in, right?
Right, so they might be able to talk to somebody like FrameCon, the largest framing company, to come from Las Vegas to St. George.
Yeah.
If they find some leverage, but I think it's more of the.
Yeah, the subs is definitely going to be. Yeah, but without having big builders come in and be able to swing their weight, the subcontractor problem isn't going to get solved. I'm going to move through just because it's getting late. I'll come right back to you after we cover a couple of these slides, okay? This is the market share. So KW versus the rest of the market. I just picked really the top brokerages across the county. And I always, you'll see, like I said, put RE/MAX all. I didn't separate RE/MAX First with RE/MAX and Associates. Coldwell Banker, we had like 12 offices, Coldwell Banker offices that do deals in Washington County. So I just picked all from Century 21, the big franchise groups, and then we have the independent brokers I collected there. So this is actually good. I mean, we've seen a couple of times over the last years, KW wasn't always at the #1 for market share. So this is pretty obvious that Keller Williams is a heavy winner in market share in Washington County, which gives you clout with your clients, right? Who's the #1 selling brokerage in the county. It's gonna be KW. Now, this is on units. Volume is the same. We actually edge everybody out by a little bit more in volume, thanks to Julie Millett and Bill Hobson with a ton of huge properties that they've taken down as far as volume goes. However, units I still think is the main piece, right? How many signs are in the ground? Keller Williams agents are by a long shot leading the way. It's interesting to see these numbers, especially when you look at the number of agents that are part of some of these offices, how many deals they're really doing versus, you know, maybe one or two of them are doing it. This is awesome. Okay, now this is the number of listings by units. So I like to divide these out. Why do we want to track the number of listings by office market share?
Leverage.
Leverage. What do you mean by leverage?
That's where, like, all those, in real estate, the leverage is in the listing.
Right.
And so the more listings we have, the more business we'll all do.
Right, exactly, right? If we're the ones with the majority of signs in the ground, then we're also going to be the ones receiving the sign calls and getting the advertising from those listings. So it's interesting to see when it comes to KW, we're barely edging out RE/MAX, even though RE/MAX wasn't a heavy market share in total units. They have a heavy market share in listings, right? And listings is going to win the race right now when it comes to our businesses over the next 6 to 12 months, right? And so having partners like Visionary Homes being a builder here at Keller Williams, it's going to give us an advantage to us having buyers. We can go directly to the listing agent there versus, hey, they hit the market, we didn't even hear about it, especially when it comes to new builds. If build jobs are going to drive inventory over the next 12 to 18 months, we want to have great relationships with those builders. So I'm going to encourage everybody to get relationships with those builders and also do everything you can to drive listings. So this is an interesting number that we're going to want to keep watching, and we're going to want to do more and more classes on how to capture more listings through some of the advertising, okay? This is my fun stat. I know you're waiting for fun stat.
I was.
I don't know if this is fun, but this is actually the number of units for sale just by Keller Williams and where the subdivisions are that we actually sell. So 7% of our units that we sold were at villas at Sand Hollow.
Really?
Isn't that crazy? Who would have said Washington Fields? Like that area for sure. None of the subdivisions. Look, Stonecliff, the number of units, 6% of our units. Sun River, Coral Ridge, Ledges, Cliffs of Snow Canyon, Bloomington Hills, St. George Townside, only 2%. That's kind of crazy, right? Granted, there's a lot of little tiny subdivisions, right, where you're selling ones and twos, but as a total percentage, I thought that was interesting. And then cities. I was actually super surprised. Washington, the city of Washington only accounts for 16% of the sales out of our office. That's pretty fascinating, right? Because if we were talking about total number of homes in both cities, St. George and Washington are pretty close to each other. But half of our deals come from St. George, which I thought was pretty fun. I get it that none of you guys thought that was very fun. So then, like Draper, so some of the outside offices, like outside agents that are doing deals, not necessarily part of our market that are selling a little bit in Draper, Salem, Pine Valley, 2%, Ivan, Turrican, pretty fascinating. Cool? That was it, guys.
Cool.
Hey, yeah, Mel, go.
Is this, available online? Can you share this?
Yeah, I'll share this out. Yeah, I'll share this with everybody. Cool. What else? No?
Well, I was talking about, as far as the future building, you got subcontractors you gotta worry about. You also got water and what land is available and what water rights can be for builders.
Yeah.
Like Russ got Devario, all of that's all set up, you got Desert Color. What other subdivisions may come on, all depends on what the city and the county allows as far as what our water availability is.
Yeah, so jump on that call on Friday, because we're going to talk a little bit about this. Believe it or not, it's actually not one of the considerations the city takes into account in giving you permits, namely because it's not really an issue. And the more building we have, the more reason why we need the Lake Powell pipeline. I don't see any city actually stifling building because of that, because it's going to only increase the reason why we need the Lake Powell pipeline. And I know that's every single city in Washington County is for that pipeline being built. So the more build that happens, the more likely we're going to get that. So it is a consideration. I just don't know if it's the consideration. A lot of cities are requiring, all of Desert Color has secondary water systems. So a lot of times in these big subdivisions, they're requiring that they do secondary systems where they're reusing the culinary for irrigation, stuff like that. So, yeah.
They're already doing some portions of things ahead of time for the pipeline. Just as things are going, it's not really out in the world, but as they're doing road construction in certain areas.
Oh, yeah, they take that stuff into account for sure.
They're already, doing things.
Yep.
to account for that.
Yeah. Any other questions? Anybody, not here? Got anything? Thanks for joining us live, guys. All right, that's it for today. You guys have a good rest of your day. Grab a sandwich on the way out. I don't want any of that extra stuff.
Thanks, Robert. So, these 3 classes with Dave, is that what you're saying? Doesn't matter which order I go in?